Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the beginning of the last days. My name is Laura-Lynn Tyler Thompson, and I am, I'm actually just having to operate on the sheer joy of the Lord because all kinds of information coming in today. As I've been saying on my show, I sense we are seized. We are seized. So they have got the education system, they've got the medical system, they've got our businesses, they've got our judicial system, right? All of it is done in unless we have God. We need God. We need a massive move of God in this country. We need people to return to their values and principles and to stand up for what's right. There is, however, some good news as we watch Target's stock tumble. That's not a bad thing. So I want to open my dad's Bible here. I miss my dad, and every day I feel a bit closer to him when I just open his Bible. Okay. So this is what he says. In Psalms 68, verse 34, he underlined, ascribe strength unto God. His excellency is over Israel, and his strength is in the clouds. Is that the Google Cloud thing that we put in? Is his strength in there? No, it's above that. I heard our guest laugh. All right, there he is. Well, we better get Dr. Mark Sherwood on, one of our favorite USA dudes. Mark, we're just watching all the fun going on down there. And, all of us in North America are really dealing with unprecedented times.
We are, and Laura-Lynn, thanks for having me as always. I'm really honored to be with you. We are living in unprecedented times, and on one hand, it can be very traumatic. On the other hand, I hope people catch this. It can be very opportunistic on the standpoint of us to share the light of hope, the light of truth, and the light of God into a darkened world. So I'm looking forward to these days. I'm not going to look into these days as negative. I'm going to look at it as a positive. God could have picked Laura-Lynn to be here and at a different time in history. He could have picked Mark to be here at a different time in history, but he picked now. So that means he's got a special place, a special mission, and a special purpose for us.
Amen. And I wouldn't want to be born in some boring time, the silent years when God didn't say much, right? I'm pretty happy to be born in these times so exciting that often, you feel like you might need to take drugs just to help yourself cope. No, I would never do that, Mark. I'm just joking. But take a look at this. If I could get your understanding of this, we're all wondering how is Target, Bud Light, all of these organizations suddenly on the woke train? Take a look at this interesting clip.
Why are so many companies going woke? There had to be some reason. And after some digging, I found it. The CEI, Corporate Equality Index, aka the woke credit score. It's a made-up score based on how much a company is pushing woke issues. And who made up and gives this score? An organization called the HRC, a massive political lobbying group. Apparently, HRC sends representatives to corporations every year, telling them the kind of stuff they have to make visible at the company, give them a list of demands, and if they don't follow through, there's a threat that they won't keep their CEI credit score. And why do companies even care about this made-up woke credit rating?
If they get a bad score, then the woke investor funds start putting pressure on the boards. Woke activists are mobilized out in the streets. Advertising campaigns are shut down. Anyone that continues to do business with them will also be penalized. This is fascism.
Don't play their game, don't get their investment. And who is funding the HRC? Surprise, surprise, it's George Soros' Open Society Foundation. Now, this HRC has introduced this arbitrary credit rating to everything. States, municipalities, and even schools. Imagine that. There are people who are deciding what credit score an individual school can get. They threaten them by having these big funds withhold investments into them. We now have a made-up scoring system that doesn't physically exist, deciding how much digital money that doesn't physically exist companies get. And it makes people physically act a certain way. This is truly mind control.
Wow. So that might explain some of the things that we're seeing happen.
It does, and I find that very telling, and I hope people right now are listening very closely, not with their ears, but with their hearts. Because what's happening is there has been a shift from profitability being secondary to principles to now profitability being superior to principles. And you see what these companies are doing. They're actually sold out, if you will, to these investors instead of sold out for the people they should be serving. And Laura-Lynn, I think this is a good lead-in for the social credit score that's actually coming to people's lives, because we know that's happening in the country of China. We know it's rapidly approaching in your country of Canada. It's also approaching in the country of the United States of America. And this is going to be a time where people are going to be judged based upon their own sense of giving, purpose, spending, political viewpoints, personal activities, personal habits. And that's a sad thing. So I have called people to begin to prepare for that and create sort of an alternative system in which they can become independent and self-governing apart from that system. And that means you plant your foods, learn to fish, learn to hunt, do those things, fend for yourself, create some sort of ability to barter and trade with maybe some hard tangible assets like gold or silver or things you can grow and plant. So that's going to be the thing in the future, I think, and we need to start thinking about that right now.
One thing you said was what we do with our own funds. I think this might be showing us something. When Bud Light tanks because they are so ridiculous as to put a trans dude on a drink that guys mainly drink, and Target, now you've got the moms who shop at Target a little upset that they're selling underwear that you can tuck your little boy's stuff into, and they're like, livid does not begin to describe it. Like, I know for me personally, I don't think I'll ever shop at Target again in my life. And so when you see, JT, you have that screenshot there of Target's, take a look at this, Mark. This is Target's, Target removes satanic pride items glorifying violence, but blames angry customers for being confrontational. I don't know what they're thinking, but look at Target's, basically their stock today. You have that stock price thing there. So it's tanking, like going down, and it should continue going down. And I hope that Target does not recover. I have to say that the Bible says that we are to expose evil. And when things like this happen, there needs to be a price. And maybe this is how we do it. Where our funds get spent is very important.
Y-E capital yes. We should be living like that, because ultimately the greatest vote we can make is with our purchasing power, our buying power, where we are loyal to. And I've called on all North Americans to do that same thing. It's important for us to spend our money, spend our time, investment, time, talent, treasures, exactly, on the places and things that matter. God tells us he's going to supply what we need. And that's what I find is exciting about this. Even though on one hand we have trauma, drama, anxiety, economic, governmental, medical control. But on the other hand, we have a God who serves the people of his family, his children, and he gives us everything we need. And so I don't have it all figured out, but I know God does. This doesn't surprise him. And so ultimately people need to be comforted with that, to trust the source of our supply. And when we do that, Laura-Lynn, man, it opens up a whole new door of hope in the middle of this mess that we're in.
We really do need that, because it's not looking good, especially here in Canada. I'll tell you, Mark, that I wish that we had a DeSantis somewhere. I wish we had a Mark Sherwood somewhere. But we have every premier. Our governors would be premiers here in Canada. Mm. All our premiers seem to be very, they're bowing unless they're feeling tremendous pressure in a certain angle. And the only people that are mentioning this terrible trans agenda that's going on, there's only one politician right now, and his name is Maxime Bernier. And I would say he's the closest thing to our Trump that we have. He is willing to call it out. His party is speaking and wants the abortion issue raised. And he's fighting like so hard to get one seat in Parliament, and he's in a bid for that right now. But in the United States of America, you have this Constitution that is much more gives much more protection than ours does here. But we're watching you guys, and I'm pretty concerned for the United States. Mark, what do you think about the borders and Biden, the Biden crime family, all of the lies? They've come out and said that this thing against Donald Trump was all lies, and yet, you know, people just seem to be getting away with a lot of nonsense down there.
Well, I think the current governmental regime, if you will, is completely incompetent and have done a horrible job. When I look at border security, I am very saddened by that. You know, it is important that countries and states, if you will, maintain border security. I'm all about immigration. I think that's fine. That's the thing that made North America great. It really is. But if it's done correctly, it's great. But if it's done incorrectly, it becomes a point of concern, because what's happening, the people that are immigrating to this country, going through all kinds of non-legal channels and legal channels, the mass of that is creating a bunch of people that become dependent upon the federal government. And that's not the American dream. The American dream is being independent of the federal government. And that's what I see happening. There's a massive transition towards dependence upon the federal government to pay your tax, to pay your bills, to give you a cell phone, to pay your medicine, to pay your food, to give you a home, to give you a car. You don't have to work. I mean, Canada's has way down that pathway. It's all about socialism. And that is not the constitutional republic. It's not empowering people. It's actually disempowering people. It's creating slavery. Slavery is like when the slaves ask permission from their captors. That's exactly what they want to have. They want us to ask permission. And Laura-Lynn, we don't need to ask permission. They should be, as leaders, asking us how they can help us. And I'm encouraged. You got one person up there, Premier, that's trying to do that. You know, I think DeSantis here in the state of Florida, he's just declared for candidacy for president, by the way. I think he's done a fine job. I mean, I think he could do more as far as that goes. But ultimately, the answer lies in people. People. The people that are listening right now, you need to vote with your credit card. If you find a candidate out there who's going to stand up for you, you need to help them. Hold rallies in your town. Talk about them. Donate to their campaigns, because we're fighting a battle where this world supply of money is infiltrating business from all angles, business, government, medicine, and it's controlling things. And if the people push back, I believe we're going to make a little bit of difference. And it takes just a little bit of headway. You know, interestingly enough, you go back and look at the American Revolutionary War, way back when, you know, Laura-Lynn, there were 3% of people that took up arms, 3% of people that decided to step up. What are the rest of them doing? Probably sitting back and saying, well, I can see both sides of this, and sort of burying their heads in the sand like an ostrich while their you-know-what is sticking up in the air. I pray to God that I'm one of the 3%, and I know you are. And so we need the 3% of people that still believe in the freedoms to do what we want, when we want, how we want, to worship how we want, to give how we want, spend how we want, and hang out with who we want to have to step up.
Right. Well, we sure wish, you know, the days of yesteryear when we didn't know that we're in the fight of our lives, you know, but we're here. And I have this clip of Biden, like what he said before and what he's actually done. I wanted to show this to you as well, because I think it shows that America has been seized by someone who's, you know, lying and who's not being honest. Take a look.
The idea that we're going to send in offensive equipment and have planes and tanks and trains going in with American pilots and American crews, just understand, and don't kid yourself, no matter what you all say, that's called World War III.
Now he's come 180 degrees from that. It's not based on intelligence reports. It's certainly not based on reports from the ground. It must just be purely politics. This neocon urge to continue a fruitless, without an off-ramp war against Russia.
I think there's another aspect which was so apparent during the G7, which is we are not losing. There's absolute insistence on saying, no, whatever you see, Bakhmut, whatever it is, we're winning. We are stuck on this sort of hubristic delusion that must be sustained. I think, as Bakhmut completely fell to Russian troops, to the Wagner troops, there had to be something to show we were not losing. We're still winning. And so he made this gesture. Of course, it probably won't be Americans in the cockpit. I don't know who it will be. And also it will be, as you rightly said, it won't change anything in the war at all, except it will extend it.
So
Yeah, that's
everything
an
keeps
interesting.
changing.
Yeah, I find that that's interesting, because he says we're not going to do that, but yet we're funding that thing and increasing frequency. And that has me very, very concerned, Laura-Lynn. I think that obviously I'm not, but if I were in charge of this country and even the ability to negotiate and broker deals a long time ago, I would have sat down with President Putin and ask him the point blank question, what do you want? What are you doing? And just really ask the question. And frankly, we're not having that done. It's all political theater at this point. And that bothers me a lot, because the bottom line is, in this conflict that has no end in sight, people are dying. People, just like you and me, moms, dads, men, women, children, just like us, people are dying. And the longer it goes on, more people will die. While these leaders sit around on their duffs and continue to play their mind games, their power control, and media is right on board with it. We can do better than this, and we should do better than this. And I pray to God that we'll get the right leaders in the right positions, the right time and place in history to stop these endless conflicts.
Amen. We're concerned about the attacks on Christians and the attacks on those with traditional values that's going on. We have a guy named Billboard Chris up here in Canada, and just for protesting peacefully at some of the trans events and to make a stand against transitioning minors, which is going on with increasing fervency in the United States and Canada, especially up here. He gets punched in the face, and then, nothing's done. The police are watching, and it's kind of like, some very odd things are happening. I have one clip here that seems to be saying that your, FBI, CIA are also targeting Christians, and it's kind of alarming, even parents. Take a look at this Fox News clip.
First on Fox Business, a bombshell new report reveals the Biden administration is using taxpayer money to wage a covert war on conservatives and Christian groups. The Media Research Center, a conservative watchdog group, obtaining documents showing DHS, Department of Homeland Security, is using a program meant to fight terrorists, which includes groups like the Heritage Foundation, MAGA, Fox News, even the Republican National Committee, in the same category as Nazis. Joining me right now is Media Research Center founder and president Brent Bozal. Brent, it's great to have you this morning. We want to know more about this. Tell us what you found and this so-called pyramid of far-right radicalization.
It's an astonishing finding, Maria. There's the program called the Targeted Violence and Terrorism Prevention Grant Program. This is supposed to find domestic terrorists in America. It was started by Obama. That was concerned by Republicans that it would be weaponized against Republicans and conservatives. Trump put the kibosh on it. It's come back now with Joe Biden. You have that pyramid. Where's that pyramid coming from? There are 80 recipients of money so far. They've received $40 million in grants. We've done FOIAs on 31 of them. The University of Dayton, none of them have wanted to respond. Here we go again. Recipients of public money won't tell the public what their money is for. The University of Dayton wouldn't give it to us. We found the documents. Anyway, look at that pyramid. This was a conference in December of 2021. In the first layer, you've got Heritage, you've got the Breitbart, you've got Fox News, you've got Christian Broadcasting, you've got the Republican National Committee. Already you've got more than half of America is on the list. The second level torques it up. More dangerous groups. Turning Point USA, Tea Party Patriots, PragerU, Breitbart, that American Conservative Unit. Then the third level is pro-Nazi organizations. And the top one is militant Nazi organizations. So there you go, the pyramid, showing the progression of domestic terrorism. But listen.
All right. That's scary.
It is. And I go back to my former time in law enforcement for 2.5 decades. And I got to tell you, this is a shocking pyramid. And I have seen that. And it blew my mind the first time I saw it. And it blows my mind now.
Yeah.
The bottom line is, in every organization, whether you got Democrats, Republicans, it doesn't matter. In every organization, you have people that can be extreme in their beliefs and people that can allow those extreme beliefs to go too far and create violence. You have an increasing frequency of the appearance of actions that are related to mental illness. You have increasing anger. You have increasing violence. And this kind of rhetoric increases that violence, because within those organizations, you're going to have people that are going to say, see, you see, and it's going to promote violence. Within the Democratic Party, you're going to see people pushing that meaning that's going to create violence. And so the more we create division, the more division you will have, and the more violence you will have. That pyramid was completely inaccurate. There are bad apples in every bunch. They need to be looked at on a case-by-case basis, person-by-person basis, no matter what group or affiliation they're in. Because the beauty of America and the beauty of North America has been in the past, you can believe anything you want, you can say anything you want. We blend, we learn to deal with differences, and we come up with solutions to deal with differences. But that is indicating that it's not okay to have differences, and that promotes in itself extremism.
And I agree exactly with what you're saying, and it seems like we're losing that. I did have another video, but I'm going to play it later in the show because I just want to use our time very wisely before I let you go. But basically, the collective, like the mob mentality. So if a majority of people kind of think it's okay to transition your children and they're not going to say anything about that, then it's a mob mentality beginning to kind of rule what's going on. So if you have, more a different perspective, it's beginning to be problematic.
It's very problematic. I go back to a scripture in the Bible. Now, people that are listening right now can say hogwash or whatever, but this principle is true. And it's found in Matthew chapter 7, verses 13 and 14. Narrow is the road that leads to life, and only a few find it. Wide is the road that leads to destruction, and many are on it. The wide road is that mob mentality that says, come over here, you can do what you want, join us, be part of the group. But that is not the road that leads to, or the group that leads to any sort of life. It always leads to destruction and death. The road that leads to life are those people that decide that no matter what the mob says, no matter what the culture says, I'm going to walk down the road of righteousness, of solid principles, of morality, and of godly direction, even if it costs me something. And even though that group is smaller, just by that scripture, that group is still more powerful. So the people over there that are running the mob, fine. You think you've got the advantage? You don't. You're never going to have the advantage over the God of the universe. Sorry. Good luck trying. And there's a heck of a division right there going on, because we as believers better stand our ground and know why we believe, what we believe, and be able to communicate in love, with firmness, with uncompromising vigor.
I love that. One of the things that you're concerned about is school shootings, and it's sort of something that you're invested in. You'd like to have, ways looking into stopping these kinds of things from happening.
Well, I am very concerned about it, because when I was growing up, you had the Pledge of Allegiance, you had prayers in schools, and you took country pride out and patriotism out and God out, and what you got coming in became guns and knives and violence and drugs and immorality, and that things continued to progress. And now, unfortunately, we're in a place in time where that has become mainstream. Look, you can't legislate morality out of people, and you can't legislate the murderous spirit out of people, Laura-Lynn. That's something that we all have within us, and if we're not careful, it can come out in my life and in yours. We need to be cautious of that. That's creating a spirit of repentance and heart of repentance in all of us. But with schools, we got to protect our children.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to create a fortress around those kids, but I am trying to create a fortress around those kids, because ultimately you got to have a 3-point plan. In my opinion, you've got to have a one-way in, one-way out entrance that's highly surveilled. You have to have that at this point. Yeah, you can have multiple exit points if you want to, based upon emergency opening as needed, but one way in, one way out. Number 2, you got to have visible security. We're in a point in time, and even a law enforcement vehicle there with the light sitting on top of it's empty, that would create a visible deterrent. And I've dealt with this. I've trained in mass shooter situations before, back in my law enforcement days. You need security there because that does impair people from taking action. We see it in airports. We're trying to protect the passengers, the people that are moving around the country. And then the third point, and I believe this all in my heart, give the teachers the opportunity, staff members the opportunity to exhibit their Second Amendment rights, and put that sign on the school out there that says something like this: beware, or be advised, persons on this property may be armed. And you do that, those 1, 2, 3 approach. Laura-Lynn, I've dealt with these psychotic cowards before. I've looked them in the eye. They don't have a soul. But ultimately, all of them had this awareness of resistance. And if you put some resistance there, I'm telling you, they will think about it for a second. And you could be literally saving their lives as well.
Wow, I really like that. I agree with you. So one way to get in and out of the school that's heavily, it's got good camera observance, so you can see who's coming in and out. And then you got teachers armed, know how to shoot. Wouldn't that be absolutely fantastic, rather than going the other way? Like, the cat's out of the bag. It's too late for all these people who say, oh no, we don't want guns. Are you kidding me? I mean, somehow kids are getting the guns, and also, criminals seem to get guns, and they're not abiding by anybody's rules on the planet. So you've now got to really protect yourself.
You do, and understand too that the people that commit these mass shootings, many times it's almost a suicidal thought turned out into a homicidal action. And really understand too that these people are hurting and they don't know how to express themselves. And the more we validate this stuff, the more we say, well, mental illness is part of life, without dealing with the health aspects of mental illness. And like, I deal with it all the time, in the sense that I want to be able to correct it before it starts. And I look at the nutritional deficiencies that we have. Whole nother subject, whole nother show. But the point being is, these people want to go out in a blaze of glory. They do not feel validated. They don't feel heard. They don't feel recognized, and don't feel important. And the only way they know how to do that is to take a whole bunch of people out, get a headline, and even if they're dead, that's what they want to do.
Wow. I just, I think that's so valuable, and I love that you put so much thought into it. And I pray that schools in America do take these very, very good suggestions into mind. And also, I mean, we're seeing sort of an increase in some very bad behavior as well here in Canada. And so we all have to be mindful of that. I do wish that our Prime Minister is definitely trying to take away our gun rights. And it's been a very big concern, and a concern that they have false flags, and then they go into homes, and they've already seized illegally, basically, guns from homes. And so it's really a mess. But I just thank you so much. God bless America. God bless Canada. May we stand strong and find ways to remain courageous in the middle of a very vicious fight at this time. Final word from you, Dr. Sherwood.
Well, Laura-Lynn, I appreciate what you do. I mean, with your show, Laura-Lynn and Friends, you do a really good job of standing up for what's right. And I encourage people that are listening right now to share this broadcast. Tell people about that. Spread it. The best way we can use social media to our advantage is to share it, just like the other team, if you will, is using it for their advantage. And then finally, I want people to have some hope. Like, as long as you have breath, you can have hope. So we're here, and all it takes is one person making one decision to make one difference. And I just hope everybody really embraces the idea of that, and very much enjoy my time with you, and just highly encourage you to keep the good fight and keep the faith.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Thanks for your time as well. Thank you for your sacrifice in that. We just love having you. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, that's a good man. Dr. Mark Sherwood, he's run in politics. He stood up. He was, I should have really introduced him better, but he was in law enforcement for an awful long time. He's a former Oklahoma state and regional bodybuilding champion as well. You can kind of see that in him, right? Very handsome guy. And so we just appreciate people like this weighing in, because we don't want to feel alone here in Canada. We like to know that the United States of America is facing some of the same challenges, and that we're together. Now, maybe that's not important to you. You're Canadian, and maybe you've got some sort of, feelings against the United States, because sometimes I see that a little bit here and there, but not so much lately, actually, because we're beginning to see that we might need some help. A lot of people sending these SOS letters down to the U.S. Somebody there had implemented this strategy that you send an SOS to the United States so that they know that we're in need of help. And I actually do think we're in need of help. The last few days, in looking at some of the ways in which the battle, and I'm hearing from moms, I'm hearing from dads, I'm hearing from police officers, and the battle in which we are engaged, we have no idea of the depth that it's a problem. So, for instance, the depth, I just heard this from a mother, of the disturbing SOGI, sexual orientation and gender identity teachings, and the propaganda that is in the classrooms of Canada, and it's called by many different things, is staggering. And when I began to fight this in 2016-17, I thought it was one school, and it's everywhere. Now, if Soros is also behind this social credit thing, and he's trying to make this woke agenda, the thing is, Soros doesn't look like a woke guy. You know what I mean? He's an old fella. I don't think he's into transgenderism. I don't think he wants his grandkids or his children to be transgender. I don't even really think he believes in all of that. I think he believes in chaos. So I have this clip of the former president of the Club of Rome. You got that one handy, JT? And one of my trusty viewers sent this to me. And it's very interesting because the Club of Rome was founded by very wealthy men who had some ideas about how the world would actually run better. You know, some of them, like Dennis Meadows from the Club of Rome, openly speaking about depopulation, saying that the world is 7 billion, but it really will function better at 1 billion. And he outwardly, openly, without shame, says that we're going to have to find a way to bring 7 billion down to 1 billion. Well, this former president of the Club of Rome, well, he gives me hope that there's some sanity in the world. Take a look.
The problem is that the UN agenda is the same with Davos agenda. Mm-hmm. This, in fact, is my main topic for our conversation today. For this reason, this the world oligarchic system, they have the power on Europe because they control all the people like Bundeskanzler or president or prime minister or whatever there are. So for this reason, sorry to interrupt you, the situation with Donald Trump was a big shock.
They didn't expect that to happen. That was an accident, I suppose.
Absolutely an accident.
Not part of their game plan.
It was the first time of the oligarchy system was happened an accident.
Mm-hmm.
Because normally it have to be Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Not Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And the process which we are dealing now with this pandemic and all these liars was supposed to be in 2016.
They were pushed into
exactly
early
in
start.
a sense to be in 2020 to be a disaster regarding food and water.
Ah, I see.
Which normally they want to arrive in 2025 now.
I see.
So the plan was a little bit change. And for this reason, of course, they will not succeed. This is clear. I mean, the system is almost down. It's, but of course, there are the last moments, and we have to have the courage now, all of us, to say no, in a sense that UN could be a fantastic, can have the fantastic role, but is not, because it's totally under control of the oligarchs.
Wow. So when he says we have to say no, and I've got all these people that are saying, okay, you know, and I've said it, we want to be against this CBDC. Am I saying that correctly? You know, the banking digital system. So we want to be against that. But in reality, can I tell you, we are in for the fight of our lives. How are we all supposed to say no when your workplace comes onto it, when they've got their woke agenda? How are we all going to say no to it when you don't get a paycheck unless you're signed on to that? And if we can no longer shop at places unless we have that, we're going to have to start making some pretty big decisions. Now, that's going to be interesting because I haven't found people be particularly willing to sacrifice, you know, in Canada. Now, maybe we're getting there. And of course, my audience is going to be different because I happen to know something about the people that watch me. You are the fighters, and I appreciate that. But we have to find ways, I guess, wherein some of the things that Mark talked about, Dr. Mark Sherwood, he said, well, you know, having an alternate society, making sure that you're getting prepared for something. I actually think that that this something that we're worried about, we need to be worried, and not as in having anxiety, and not the kind of worry where Jesus said, do not care and do not worry for anything because the birds of the field, they eat, and so I'm going to be taking care of you. And I actually honestly believe that, and Dr. Mark Sherwood started with that. But how are we going to leave our kids in the public school system? They're not changing easily. We have the incredible women of Portage Lisgar, Christine and Jen, who have figured out that these books are against, these sexualizing books in the libraries are against the Criminal Code of Canada. And they figured out how basically they can go to the boards of the libraries and, you know, and maybe of the schools too, and they can say, you know, we've got a problem with you having stuff that goes against the criminal code. You know, that's cool. I mean, if we can do that. This really bothers me, this one hair just constantly sticking out. Can't get a thing done when that's happening. So that's a good way to fight, isn't it? That we figure out what is not working, what is not good or legal, and we speak up, we show up at meetings, we put our names forward, for one thing, to become part of the solution, like, you know, get onto these school trustee boards. But we've got a bunch of woke people, like the crazy people in Chilliwack, British Columbia, with this weird, you know, Willow, you know, probably born, I don't know, maybe her parents were love children from the 60s, I don't know. But, okay, so I'll stop mocking people's names. But Willow wants to sexualize kids. Sees no problem at all with them wearing anything they want, no matter, you know, if their midriffs and everything else is showing. And so we've got these people that want the books in, they want SOGI training, they want every kid to know that they can change their gender if they so feel. And we have chaos erupting and a lot of hurt people and a lot of hurt kids. So what are we going to do about all of that? Well, there's a couple of things that are concerning that I looked into. Oh, let's do the Pierre before we move on. The White House spokesperson, Karine Jean-Pierre, says there's no plan B. The only one is to raise the debt ceiling. So
This is the only option that we have is for Congress to do its job, for Congress to deal with the debt limit. That's the only option in front of us. That is the best option for the American people. That's the best way to make sure that our economy doesn't get turned on its head, that we don't get a situation where we potentially lose up to 8 million jobs or devastate retirement accounts. That is not an option. So we're being consistent here. We've been saying that they need to do their job. It is their constitutional duty. It's been done 78 times since 1960. That's what we're saying. As it relates to the budget negotiation, those are continuing. We want to make sure that gets done as soon as possible as well. It is important for the American people to see what we value and what we see in a bipartisan way that we're going to present to the American people, clearly also to Congress, so that it can get both Democrat and Republican votes.
So if there is not a deal, there is no plan B?
What I can say is the only option right now is for Congress to do their jobs without conditions. That is the way that we need to move forward as it relates to the debt limit.
So on the heels of that, take a look at this website, Global News Report. Basically, it's not over yet. Gas prices continue to climb in Metro Vancouver, nearing $2 a liter. It's getting awfully expensive to use that vehicle. I think that is what they exactly want. A sudden overnight spike in Vancouver in gas prices has Thursday morning drivers in Metro Vancouver holding onto their wallets. This is literally today's date, right, JT? Gas prices are nearing the dreaded $2 a liter price point in the Lower Mainland, and with a station in Richmond as high as $1.94.9 a liter, according to Gas Buddy Map. I like that Gas Buddy Map, It tells you where you can get the cheapest gas, just for those that want to be in the know. Gas expert Dan McTeague said it is not a Metro Vancouver issue, but a continental issue for all of North America. And here is where what they do in the United States matters to us. And so we have, it does seem like they're trying to destroy our countries. When you look at, read this first. We've seen markets Okay. Oh, at the bottom. Sorry, I was on a different section. Okay, the last one. Okay, ongoing political issues in the United States, specifically the U.S. debt ceiling, McTagg says could mean the spike BC drivers are experiencing will be short-lived. Is that the one you want me to read? So what does that mean? It's going to go back down? Maybe. Okay, so we might be blessed to see that. The thing about what I see with Trudeau and Biden is the complete waste, like the millions and millions of dollars that have gone into the Ukraine war. A war, like, we don't want our grandchildren fighting in wars, do we? Have we not learned anything from some of the useless wars that literally cost, mainly American sons, but Canadians as well, have died in these battles? And for what? We go in like what? We're the saviors of the world and we're going to help everybody else. We can't even take care of the homeless on our own streets. There should be enough money for us to be functioning very well. Our taxes, the millions, billions of dollars that our Canadian government is bringing in, that should be enough for us to be very, very happy, all of us. To be living well, to be making a good wage, for things to be paid for and taken care of. Instead, what's happening is that Biden and Trudeau, it's like, the destructive duo, have literally been destroying our nation. And that's why I feel that we're seized. And when Trudeau talks, and I think we aired that clip yesterday, he's just an actor in this position. And he's following the agenda to the T. I think that's why he was put in there and kept in there. Join with me in a prayer, everyone, that he would be removed, that a suddenly would come and rescue us from this man. I would like that. I really would. The problem being in Canada, we have every elected party that's there. So we could see that maybe Pierre Poilievre is going to get in, but Pierre Poilievre, other than, maybe he wants to keep an eye on taxes and stuff like that, he still is going to go along with the Paris Accord agenda. He's into the climate hysteria stuff. He believes that's, something that we have to pour a lot of money into. He's going along with that. He's into the LGBTQ agenda with the trans and the Bill C4. Yesterday, we showed the video of the Conservative Party of Canada cheering as they made it illegal for parents to tell their kids not to transition and to love themselves. Do we understand this? Our entire political structure is bought into something that 8 years ago none of us had heard of. We're in trouble. I feel like doing it like Whoopi Goldberg. Yeah, Molly, you in trouble, girl. That's the only movie I like Whoopi Goldberg in. She's gone off the complete deep end, after that. So now, Ontario is introducing a new energy conservation program called the Peak Perks program. And so if you bring that up there, JT, maybe. Yeah, what happened? Did you want to just talk into your microphone? Then people can hear you while I get it up. Yeah.
Okay, so last year we talked about a story in Colorado where the energy company says, hey, we'll give you these smart thermostats. We'll give you a $200 gift certificate. We'll pay you $25 a month to use this smart thermostat. People signed up for it. Hey, this is great. And then what happened is in the summer, when we turn the air conditioning on, power company said, no, you can't use air conditioning. So you go to turn your thermostat up, it doesn't turn up. Well, now it's in Ontario. They're doing exactly the same thing. We'll give you a gift certificate, try our smart thermostat, and then when you go to adjust it in the summer when it's hot, it ain't gonna work, folks.
Oh, that's just crazy, right? And here's California, right? Like California is equally nuts. So they want everyone to get these cars that are battery operated, right, for the environment. And apparently, when they put on their air conditioners, the grid goes down because it doesn't have enough to just sustain the air conditioners. Well, what are you going to do when you got all these cars now that have to be charged up so you can go to work the next day? Unbelievable. Okay, how about this one? Red State Media report on the trouble that Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff is now in since the Durham report has been released and the truth about his promoting of lies about former President Donald Trump. Now, this is an absolutely delicious article, I have to say. I cannot stand this guy. This guy, evil personified, Adam Schiff, the biggest liar. Oh, he can cry on cue. He can do all kinds of things. So now that Special Counsel John Durham's report has been released, those who perpetuated the Russia collusion hoax are under renewed scrutiny. Amen. As they should be. Representative Adam Schiff, a Democrat, was one of the leading proponents of this false claim that former President Donald Trump collaborated with the Russian government to influence the outcome of the 2016 presidential election. Now there is a move in Congress to punish him for the falsehoods that he told shortly after the race. And there were numerous falsehoods, actually. And he's in a lot of trouble over this because he lied and lied and lied. I hope you all realize that none of this is true, that the Russia collusion nonsense that they put on Donald Trump, you can say all you want about him, but it's come out. There was no Russia collusion. Now, I see Putin is saying something about Trump today, right? And he's... Okay, I think I saw that Putin is basically saying that he's looking forward to Trump getting in 2024, which I don't think that's going to help Trump a lot. But you can see that Putin did not have difficulties. We were not at war when Trump was, doing his best to govern the country. The inflation rates were down, the border was secure, there were no wars. Okay, this was just 3 years ago. And now total chaos everywhere. All right, looks like So it looks like Target is following the path of Bud Light. We did talk about this a little bit earlier, but their promotion of satanic woke agenda in their stores has customers angry, but Target is pushing back with claims of angry customers showing confrontational behavior. So this is ramping up, everyone. People are pretty upset. Lots of people going in, taking videos, spreading it around the internet nonstop. And I, for one, think this is the way we got to go. This is the way that we have war. If you see something funny now, do you know what I did the other day? So I took pictures of, actually, I got them from a friend. We were at the gas station. He was driving me to the airport back from Manitoba, and there was Hershey, like Hershey, and then there was I don't know if it was he, him, or whatever, chocolate bars. And, you know, all I could say was, yep, I am not going to be getting that bar again either. So I'm not going to buy that ever. Like, I can get chocolate somewhere else. I do like my chocolate, but I don't need to have a Hershey correct pronoun bar. Not buying it. Anything that has to do with that. If stores start putting up those signs outside with the flags and all of that, hey, that's a store that I'm just not going to be giving my dollars to. And when Tim Hortons forced kids to get, a medical treatment in this last 2 years, I decided that they weren't part of my life anymore either. And that was a painful one to give up. But you know what? It's worth every bit of it. We have to start fighting back with our dollars. One thing we do have, millions and millions of Canadians. You start going all woke on us, we're not servicing your gas station. We're not going to your store, your supermarket. We're not buying your products at all. Not for a second. That's how this is going to go down. And we have to make decisions that we won't be part of it. And it's not a difficult thing to do. All right. So Target's CEO, Brian Cornell, thinks carrying this woke merchandise is adding value to the company. Well, maybe. I wonder if that video we aired earlier where you get funds because you're woke, is Target the recipient of some of those funds from Soros? I mean, is that what's really going on? So when this guy, Target CEO, says that this is good for Target, maybe it's good for his paycheck, is what's happening. Yet Target held an emergency meeting regarding the backlash they're experiencing. I hope so. I hope that Target actually has to maybe, give up their business. That would be good. And I think that's going to be the answer. Don't just give them a little tap on the wrist, everybody. Never go there again. Drive by. Go somewhere else. Go somewhere else that's not going to be all woke. So did we already do AOC goes head to head? Now I think this one I'm going to have to pull up, JT. I hope I've got the link. I'm not sure. No, I don't. So AOC goes head to head with Ted Cruz over racist history of the Democratic Party after the NAACP's travel advisory that Florida Governor DeSantis is openly hostile to the Black community. So it is. Go to the tweets. You got them? Oh, sorry, I'm on a different page. Okay, so let me read these. So guess who'd have? So this is by some dude. All right. Guess who'd have been first in line to filibuster against the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act? Yes, Ted Cruz. So in 1965, Dr. King called for a national boycott of the state of Alabama, saying that Democratic Governor George Wallace's policies constituted a reign of terror against Black Americans. Ted Cruz says, this is bizarre and utterly dishonest. In the 1950s, 60s, the NAACP did extraordinary good helping lead the civil rights movement. Today, Dr. King would be ashamed of how profoundly they've lost their way. You know, all of this race baiting. Can you just move? Oh, not too far. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just, sorry. I'm kind of like I put my, I make it larger on my thing and then it goes too far. So nonsense. That shameful filibuster was led by Democrats. Your party, Cruz told him in response. My party, the Republicans, proudly voted for the Civil Rights Act in much higher percentages than the racist Dems. This is when AOC decided to join in on the action, thinking she had a gotcha with her message to Cruz. So Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Sandy, as we like to call her. Remember when Tucker would call her Sandy? That used to make me laugh. Okay. Oh, I miss Tucker. Why don't you go ahead and tell people what happened to the parties after that, Ted? Says Sandy. So Ted Cruz says, well, it kind of was. Oh, okay. All right. So first, the Dem Party founded the KKK. Then the Dem Party wrote Jim Crow laws. Then the Democratic Party filibustered the Civil Rights Act. Today, the Democratic Party filibusters school choice, trapping millions of Black kids in failing schools. Today, the Democrat Party pushes abolishing the police, which results in many more Black lives murdered. Today, every Democrat senator voted against my bill to stop D.C. from throwing 40% of Black kids out of schools because of vax mandates. So these Democrats, they wanted all the kids to get the vaccine or be thrown out of school. It was Ted Cruz, one of the Republicans, that had to put forward a bill to say, no, we don't want to kick kids out of school for this, right? So, okay, the Republican Party was founded to oppose slavery. Our first Republican president was Abraham Lincoln, who won the Civil War and ended slavery. It was Republicans who voted for the Civil Rights Act in a much higher percentage than the racist Dems. Today, we produce the lowest African American unemployment ever under the Trump economic boom. Today, we produce the lowest African American poverty levels ever under the Trump economic boom. Today, in 2017, I passed the largest expansion of federal school choice ever, making 529 plans over K-12 over the objection of every single Senate Democrat. I mean, these Dems are just, they are so unsupportive of the Black community, and yet they are being voted for still, you know, all of the many African Americans still believing that they're the way. Just 2 years ago, it says the Democratic governor of Virginia had put the photo of a man dressed as KKK Klansman on his personal yearbook page. Wow. And today, the sitting Democrat president, Joe Biden, gave in 2011 a flowery eulogy for an exalted cyclops of the KKK. And to add to all of that, the Democratic Party aggressively supports open borders, which has led to the deaths and brutal assaults of thousands of Hispanics. And AOC somehow can't seem to find her white part suit to cry over their suffering. Okay, we took it down and I haven't finished reading it, but it's all right. So the race wars are all on. And when you start getting the actual facts about what's happening, so apparently African Americans are moving to Florida in waves when people are saying, oh, it's not safe there because of Governor DeSantis and the way that he runs everything. And it's absolutely not true. Closing up here, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. So what is this, JT? I also saw something about where, people are going to end up, like in certain parts, they were going to do some sort of presentation or a big conference that was going to be only Black people invited. Like, so that's okay. But can you imagine? Like, these people who are against racism are the racists. You know, that's the irony of all of this. All right. And we've already done that video. I don't think we can do the Dr. Buttar video on these platforms. So I'm just going to leave that off. And so my website is Laura-Lynn.tv. Thank you very much for joining us. I've had a good time talking with you today, basically sharing my heart. I think I did have Okay, I'll go to that in just a second. So yes, here's my website. Be sure to check that out. If you ever don't see me on any of the platforms that you see me on right now and I'm not there, remember Laura-Lynn.tv. Okay, I'm on a TV square and it's Laura-Lynn.tv, not Laura-Lynn.com, not Laura-Lynn.ca. And we also want to remind you that with all of these issues that we're seeing with the economy, with the messing around that they're doing, gold and silver are safe bets. Silver, sometimes, you know, what they did recently was they kind of did a little devaluation on the silver. This is what they're saying is, this is when you get the silver, because it's not going, sometimes they can mess with it a little bit, but it is not going to stay low, because silver and gold are going to have an incredible increase in value as they become, once again, the standard. Gold becoming the standard, precious metals becoming the standard for our funds, because right now our money is really based on nothing. Before we go, I want to remind you, if you can do my share there, JT, as the other day, Maxime Bernier announced the New People's Party policy on radical gender ideology at a press conference in Winkler, Manitoba. This evil agenda, he says, which contradicts basic biological realities, is particularly harmful to women and children. If we can get a leader that is actually willing to address these very important cultural issues, we win. We need a balance of power. We need People's Party to get 5, 10 representatives into the parliament so that their voice is heard, so that there is a reopening of the abortion debate, so that God's heart would not be broken at 100,000 lives in Canada taken every year without a word from our politicians. That ought not to be. Please take another look at Maxime Bernier. I encourage you to do that. And I have at different times highlighted some really key and great people who are from different parties, right? I highlight by character. If someone's character, if they have my values, I will vote for them if they have my principles and my values. But I will not vote for them if they do not represent that. And at this time, the People's Party of Canada is doing something unprecedented. We're actually seeing history happen right now. Maxime Bernier in Winkler, Manitoba, in the Portage-Lisgar riding, is being so bold as to speak what Pierre Poilievre and Prime Minister Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh would never do. They will not speak against this agenda. And it is a stench in God's nostrils that we're allowing it and we're not speaking out. And so I really, really do admire what Maxime Bernier is doing. Thank you very much for your support. The only way that we actually get to be here every day and have a little chat and share our lives with you. I had a funny story, but maybe I'll just do it tomorrow because we're a bit long. But the music's going, so that's how he rushes me along. I did have a good story though, but that's okay. Don't worry, I'll do it another day. I thank you for helping us and being willing to help us. Tomorrow we are going to have Dr. Paul Alexander on the show, and he is a hero in this nation and also in the United States because he speaks up everywhere. The reason we're able to do this is because we believe that God has called us at this hour to become a sounding ball, an oracle, really, like that we would just speak and trumpet the truth as loud as we can, because we are not seeing that being trumpeted out there. So Jesus in Mark 4, and I'm going to underline this because I want my kids to know what I thought was important. In Mark 4, verse 21, he said to them, this is in red letters, "Do you bring in a lamp and put it under a bowl or under a bed? Instead, don't you put it on the stand? For whatever is hidden is meant to be disclosed, and whatever is concealed is meant to be brought out into the open. If anyone has ears to hear, let him hear. You know what Jesus was saying right there is that the dark evil needs to be exposed, and that is by the light that you bring. You don't hide your light under a bushel. You don't put your light under a book or a bowl so that it's never seen. No, you expose that light, because the evil that is there will then be exposed. When you bring, I remember being in a huge cave many years ago, and it was black, and the guy who was taking our little group through this big cave shut off his light instrument, and all of a sudden pitch black, like we could not even see our hand in front of our face. But you know what he did? He just lit a match. He held up a match, and when that match lit up in the darkness, it exposed the entire place. We were in shock. We didn't actually need a huge, flashlight. We didn't need something powered, by a mega generator. We just needed a tiny little match, and it lit up all of that dark place. And what's happening right now is that they have hidden in darkness, and it is being exposed. I am grateful for that. May the great awakening bring the great exposure. May we see the light expose these dark places. And when that happens, it can be dealt with. But what we didn't know that there was so much darkness. It says, consider carefully what you hear, he continued. With the measure you use it will be measured to you, and even more. Whoever has will be given more. Whoever does not have, what they have will be taken away from them. If we don't use our influence, if we don't use our match of light, even that shall be taken away. Stand strong, everyone. See you tomorrow. God bless. It's not easy to deliver the truth of what our sick world is doing, but for some of us, we feel that we have no choice. Because if we are silent about these abominable things, then we are letting evil go unchecked, and we cannot do that. For those of you wonderful people who are writing me and are sharing your encouragement, I am deeply grateful. Thank you for all the letters that you've been sending. Thank you for the donations and the support. I found out that in order to speak the truth, you have to become very, very strong. If you would go to my website at www.laura-lynn.tv, you'll find all of the ways that you can contact me. Remember, my friends, all is well. All is well. Thanks for joining me.